BetterLesson connects K-12 educators with professional learning solutions to help students and educators thrive in meaningful, student-centered learning experiences. We offer a library of actionable strategies and lesson plans created by master teachers and BetterLesson instructional coaches that accelerate growth and support student success. For the next few minutes, please enjoy seeing real teachers in real classrooms share their favorite student-centered strategies.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Palmer, a high school special education teacher in Kansas City, Kansas, and I'm meeting the needs of all learners master teacher with BetterLesson and the Kauffman Foundation. Today, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite strategies, pre-teaching to support content mastery. This is a great strategy because it gives you a specific time period to differentiate instruction so that you can meet the needs of all learners in your classroom. First, you're going to create a structure for your class periods that includes that 15-minute flexible time period. Then you're going to identify the learning targets and the foundational skills that your students need to be able to meet those learning targets. Next, you will determine a teaching method and develop a guided learning activity for students. Finally, you will implement that guided learning activity during the 15-minute flexible time period the day before you teach the lesson. This strategy supports learners because it allows you to use that 15-minute time period to differentiate instruction, to specifically target and intervene with your struggling learners while your more advanced learners are able to work on extension activities. If you use this strategy consistently, you should notice that your struggling learners become more confident. They start to volunteer in class, they start to participate, they engage in group work more often. You should also notice that their grades improve. I hope you experience as much success and have fun with this strategy.
Once the multimedia part of my lesson is over, I had the students stand up and stretch and then sit back down ready for me to read the book Bunnies on the Go, which is also going to extend the students' vocabulary in transportation, choice, and selection. What's an opinion? What do you think, Ava? Scott?
Somebody thinks something and somebody else thinks it different.
Wonderful, there you go. I think, I feel, I like, but it might be different to what another person thinks, feels, or likes, because it's your opinion. Like my opinion might be, oh my goodness, I think the best way to get to school is to ride on a water buffalo. But Shelby might say, well, I think the best way to get to school is by jet plane. Like, what?
Or jumbo jet.
So Shelby would have to be able to explain to me why she has that opinion. It's okay to have an opinion, but you should always be able to explain it to somebody, always back it up with a reason. You want to be able to tell them why. So for me, I would say, I think coming to school on a water buffalo would be great because I'm not using any fuel. The reason that this lesson has a higher expectation is because up until now I've let the students just say because I like it so that they can use the sight words. Now I really want them to formulate their opinion and then be able to explain it in a much more complete manner. I still found that I had a couple of students who said it was fun. But when I asked them, well, what makes it fun? They were able to verbalize their answer to me, and I encouraged them to put that down on paper.
I separate my students into 3 general groups: mild, medium, and spicy. They're pretty general groups that have been determined based off of benchmark data or different assessments. And it allows me to easily give students practice that is around their personal level. Mild would be the low level, more remedial math. Medium is on grade level, good practice, and spicy is the building group, the highest group who might be like pushing the concepts to a higher level. I use the differentiated groups of mild, medium, and spicy because I noticed that my students are all at different levels. Giving them one practice worksheet or one type of practice that's aiming at the middle really is not successful because my high students will feel like it's too easy and get bored, and my low students will not be able to access the material and feel defeated right away. So by creating these 3 different groups, mild, medium, and spicy, I'm giving each group the right practice that they need so that they can feel successful in their work.
We have about 20 minutes to work independently and to master our objective, master our skills, and get our name up there. At the end, we're going to take an exit ticket to prove our mastery. But everyone's going to work on Khan Academy to go there. When you go on, it's going to look like this, so eyes are still tracking, so I can show you. Remember Mr. Pham's online bookmarks? Thumbs up if you remember this. If you scroll down, you'll see that there are math links. We have the mild Khan Academy, so if you're in the mild group, you're going to work on that first. And then once you feel like you've challenged yourself enough and you're ready, you can move on to the medium and spicy Khan Academy. So medium and spicy are both going to work on that link. If you master it on Khan Academy, meaning they tell you master adding fractions, then you can go to the done early or even our challenge. All right, you see Savannah has already started showing her work on a whiteboard.
With the mild, medium, and spicy groups, they're very flexible groups. As I see a student is ready for a higher level, or as a student even chooses to move up to a higher level, I'll let them challenge themselves and let them move up to practice that's more suited for them when they're ready for it. One downside of having these three groups is that even within one group, whether it's the spicy group or the medium group, each of those students still has very different needs. So I still try to push to have a lot more individualized practice outside of these three groups, where the students aren't just working on mild practice or medium practice or spicy practice, but working on practice that's really targeted just for them. So the mild, medium, and spicy groups gives them a chance to challenge themselves and choose to try a harder level. That way they can continue to push their growth and own their learning, whether or not they're going from mild to medium or medium to spicy.
Hi, I'm Allison, an instructional coach at BetterLesson. As a teacher, I love using a strategy like fill in the gaps to provide targeted support to my students. By doing a deep dive into a student's data, I'm helping them understand and take ownership of their own strengths and gaps. This helps motivate my students to set really focused goals that feel attainable to them. This strategy also helps me create focused, targeted support on specific learning targets or skills that students need help with. This ensures that the time I'm spending with them is really meaningful and working to close these specific gaps. Using this data also helps me to differentiate activities and build scaffolds that students may need, and even group students together strategically for support. The example we're looking at here is a fill-in-the-gap strategy for a math quiz, but this same strategy could be used with any assessment given, where skills are broken up and aligned to certain aspects of the assessment. At first, I typically work with students to complete this, even as a whole group, then maybe in small groups with my support. And eventually students are asking if they can take the time to break down their own assessment data to truly understand what they need to work on. I encourage you to take a look at this strategy a little bit deeper to see if you could possibly use it to support your students.
Marzano's practice is probably at the root of my philosophy as a teacher. It's that students should be getting what they need. And a lot of times we kind of try to dictate that to them. So Marzano's practice is also influential to my class because it allows the students to self-assess themselves as to where they are. At the end of a lesson, I'll ask the students to hold up a 1 through a 4 using Marzano's scale as kind of a guide. And they self-assess themselves as to where they are. As a result of where they assess themselves, my students then go to differentiated practice. So for example, level 3s who self-assess themselves as needing just more practice, they might go on to a program like iExcel where they'll get repeated questions thrown at them, while level 4s might get more challenging enrichment work or even help some with lower levels. The 1s and 2s are close to me so that I can kind of see where are their missteps, where are their misconceptions, and help them out.
I want to know where you're at before you show me.
Look and see what you have to do. Remember, this is about you taking care of business. So during our next 10 minutes or so of practice, we're going to use Marzano's scale. And Marzano's scale, basically, he says that if you're at 1, that means that you need some help. At 2, you feel like if I'm there kind of guiding you, you'll kind of get it. Number 3 says, well, I could do this independently, but I just need practice. And 4 says, I'm ready for a challenge. I think I need to be pushed. Show me. Okay, so that means when I say go, whatever you rated yourself, I want you to take care of your business. The 4, I have 9 copies right here. If, remember, there's an extra person needs more, then please share and work together. So for the 4s, it's a challenge. In order to do it, you've got to remember that division and multiplication are inverses and can undo each other. For my 3s, remember that you can use the computers, you can use the ThinkPads, and you can also use the iPads at your desks for IXL Skill G3. Move with speed. One way that I've already tried to make Marzano's practice a little bit better and a little bit stronger is to really have the kids tie their results on their assessments to what they self-assess themselves as during the lessons. So for example, a student who self-assessed as a 3 but failed a quiz, that's a really good opportunity to kind of have a conversation and a reflection about where the student actually is in connection to the skill. But I'm not ready to just dictate just yet where they go and what they do. I want them to learn these things as we go, because those kind of learning moments are the most powerful and the most lasting.
I just finished the most fun activity with my students today. I loved it. We're starting a new story tomorrow, and what I did is I read through the story and I took out some of the not main words, but some of the big words that were telling about what was going to happen in the story, like disease and cemetery and trolley rider and lad was another one. And so there were maybe 20 words, and I cut them up and put them into baggies, and each group of partners got a bag, and they were supposed to categorize the words however they saw fit. And everybody did it in a different way, which was really cool to see how different people were viewing it. But the really awesome part was, after they looked at all the different categories that people had done, I had them write a prediction for what they thought was going to happen in the story. And they did such an amazing job at figuring out where the story was set based on some of the wording. They figured that it was probably set in England, and they figured out some of the main events just by previewing 20 words. And I think that when they read the story and confirm their predictions, they'll be super excited. They cannot wait to read the story. They were dying to know if they were right. And usually when it's the first day to start a story, my kids are not so excited to begin. But now that they have something invested in it, they're ready. It was very, very fun.
So battling the boss happens pretty much at the end of every level, and it's a chance for me to assess my students and for them to prove to me that they understand the information. And so it usually happens that I go and sit next to them, I ask them 1 or 2 questions that will prove to me that they understand the material or the skills that we're trying to cover. And then once they've proven that, or if I need to maybe ask them more questions, I might prompt them more. But once they've proven that, they'll put their name on the level, whatever poster it is. Say they're battling for level 2, they'll put their name on level 3's poster. And that proves that they've completed that and mastered that level. And so that's kind of their achievement, that visual achievement that they get to write on that poster. So a paper pencil test is not always the best method to assess my students. And so I found that sometimes, especially in a blended classroom, when you're trying to move from student to student very quickly and to address all of their needs, an assessment that goes very quickly, like a verbal assessment with 1 or 2 questions that shows that they understand the material or covers the material that we're trying to get to, that's a lot easier than maybe just having them sit down and do pencil paper and then trying to get the feedback to them very quickly. Because once they've mastered a level, they're gonna move straight on.
Supposed to be bad.
Ooh, okay, give me a second. Let me do my rounds and then we'll go sit over in one of those tables. We'll do it. Hey, is anybody else close to battling the boss today? Okay, okay. Are you?
I battle too. I mean, I'm not done with the vlog.
Are you almost done with your vlog?
Yeah.
I suppose. If you think you're ready, you can battle.
I'm ready.
Have you ever been on a lake? Okay, so give me an example of the hydrosphere and biosphere interaction on a lake.
I swim in the lake.
And what are you?
Biosphere.
You're the biosphere, and what is the lake?
Hydrosphere.
Very nice, you passed. Okay, go write your name on level 3's poster, you're done. So in science, we're always looking for ways to collect data very quickly, and using battling the boss as a verbal assessment and gathering a lot of information very fast is an easy way to see if your students understand the information or not. So they're very eager to battle the boss. They're always flagging me down, hey, it's my turn to battle the boss. And I think the reason for that is because they really want to know if they are on track with their learning. They want that feedback. And so by battling the boss, it's that instant feedback that, like, if I ask you a question and you can't answer it, I'm gonna ask you more questions. And I can tell just from that they maybe don't have a clear understanding, but I can ask them prompt questions to maybe delve a little deeper back into their brain to see if they can dig that up. And so I think they really like that aspect because it's not a one-try, one-time deal. You get to fail forward. You get to take risks. And if you make a mistake, then you go back and you look at the material again, see if you can find a different way to learn the material, and then try the battle again.
Hi, I'm Kara Carney, a 7th and 8th grade Spanish teacher at Hawker Grove Middle School, and I'm a master teacher for meeting the needs of all learners with BetterLesson. And today I'm here to talk to you about my teaching strategy, Comprehensible Input, Teaching Targeted Vocabulary. This is a really great strategy because it helps teachers prioritize the most important vocabulary words that their students need to know, and it helps make that vocabulary engaging and accessible. This is important for students because when they know the vocabulary that you need them to know in your class, they're more engaged, they're able to interact with the vocabulary at a higher level, and they're able to critically think about the material that you are teaching. When you are coming up with those vocabulary words, you have to know which tier they're in. So tier 1 vocabulary words are words that students are going to interact with every single day. Words like desk, or hallway, or write, or read. Words that are tier 2 are words that are less common. They might not hear them every single day in regular conversation, but they are going to use them in every single classroom at school. So words like analyze, or reflect, or discuss. And finally, tier 3, these types of vocabulary words are very specific to your content. So a science teacher might have the word hypothesis or experiment. In Spanish class, we use words like infinitive and conjugate. So you need to know how students are going to need to interact with this vocabulary by determining which tier that it's in. So after you've determined the tier of acquisition, you need to build a context that makes the vocabulary relevant. This could include asking students to create a visual representation or a sentence for the vocabulary words. So for example, in my Spanish class, if we're learning about restaurant vocabulary and I want them to memorize the word the bill, I might give them the Spanish word. They need to write the translation, and then they need to draw a visual representation of what that means to them. This allows them to create any visual that represents the word, and it makes it relevant to them based on what they already know. And this can be done for more complex vocabulary words and terms in any content area. We have to remember that all students are coming to us with their own background knowledge and prior experiences of our content. By honoring those experiences, pre-teaching the vocabulary that we want them to know, and then reinforcing them through games and activities like these, we are meeting the needs of all students.
Prior to today's lesson, I taught students how to participate in a gallery walk in order to provide productive and meaningful feedback for their peers.
So where were you reading?
We just
were
got
reading
here.
down here and
Okay,
kind of all
can
over
I
the place.
hear you and
Not
just
really doing it.
hear if you agree or disagree?
Sure.
So energy starts from the sun and passes from producers to consumers.
Do you agree with
Yes,
that?
I agree with
Why did they cross out?
I think that's number one, but they didn't really number.
Oh, I see number
yeah,
one. What question do you have as an audience right now when they say it passes from producers to consumers?
Well, what passes? Well, it says the energy, but what energy? Is it like light's energy? Or
Well, it says from the sun,
energy
right?
starts from the sun and passes.
What question do you have about producers?
What are producers and what are consumers?
So you want to maybe look
So we
for
should write that down.
Well, we might need to look at the rest of their poster and see if they have it
They
somewhere
could
else.
explain.
Okay.
The food chain always starts with a
Producer.
producer and ends with a consumer.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because
No, no, I
it,
know.
it never
What's the
ends
food
actually.
chain? What does the food chain start with?
The
It
sun.
starts with
The sun's energy.
And I don't think
So-
it always ends on our consumer because it could because
Wait.
there's also the decomposers and the decomposers could give back energy to the plant, which could go over and over. I
Does
don't
it
think
ever end? Does it ever end?
We don't
That,
know.
that cycle
Oh, we
doesn't ever end,
We don't
does
know
it?
quite.
Well, until the sun burns out, and then like everything's gonna stop. And
Okay.
That we know of so
because
far.
everything starts.
Okay. So what could you write down here?
I disagree with number two.
I respectfully
disagree with number two because it does not start with
Let me ask her to finish it. What's it? The what?
the food chain.
And what do you think the food chain starts with instead?
Sunlight.
Sun, the sun's energy. So let's write that down. Nice observation.
For example, I agree with this because, or what would happen if, at the end of today's lesson, the students will walk around the classroom and use these sentence prompts to provide others with feedback. Oftentimes, the more structure and support teachers provide students when they engage in peer discourse, the more effective their feedback. Sometimes students don't know what the teacher is expecting and can get off task or off topic easily. By asking students to create a poster that will be read by their peers, it encourages them to really take into consideration their audience and to develop evidence-based arguments. It also gives them the opportunity to review the meaning of vocabulary as they look at other students' posters. Also, by participating in the gallery walk, students are continually negotiating the true meaning of vocabulary and scientific concepts over and over. At the end of this activity, I asked students to share how the feedback was most helpful to them. Many students shared how peer feedback encouraged them to think deeper and to attend to precision.
Roleplay Hook is just a simple way to get students involved in an experience of learning rather than just a lecture of learning. So I myself like to have fun in the classroom, so I want to make sure that the students do as well. So for example, if I'm teaching a lesson about early American civilizations where they're going off into, to be introduced into the Aztec world or the Mayans world, I want them to experience it as if they were there. And so we always start off with something like, let's take a moment and let's put on our exploration hats, or let's put on our binoculars, and something as simple as that gets them excited to want to learn. We want to make the learning experience for students much more hands-on, much more of an experience for them, so that they're excited to learn about it without them even realizing that they're being taught, content just by me as a teacher speaking to them. I want them to learn so that they understand that this is for them and not so much for me.
Buckle up. Set your timers to the past. Today we're going to visit the Inca. Yes, the Inca. And this is in South America on the West Coast, okay? So make sure you set it correctly. You don't want to end up in the wrong spot, okay? Ready? Do you feel the rumbly? Here we go, and well, hurry up, meet with us.
Oh, there you go.
All right, good. Okay, so friends, look around you. Today, bring it back. Today, we are visiting the mountains of Peru. We are 7,000 feet up into the sky almost.
So my students have loved role-playing, and with such a high focus on academic achievement, I think we forget, just the simplicity of having fun in a lesson. So I think that when we can take those 30 seconds to make it exciting for the students, why not?
BetterLesson provides deep dive workshops, flexible job-embedded one-to-one coaching, BL Connect on-demand learning courses, and supportive learning walks. Get in touch if you are looking for actionable strategies and support in accelerating student-centered learning in your district.